Picture this. A massive oil tanker is sitting in the Persian Gulf. The captain can see the Iranian coastline. His crew is nervous. They received a message from the United States Navy telling them to stop. Do not move forward. Turn around. The water around them is worth more than gold right now. And right now, nobody is allowed to touch it. That tanker has been stuck in that exact spot for weeks. Its cargo is worth hundreds of millions of dollars. But it cannot move because a narrow strip of water, barely wide enough for 5 ships to pass through side by side, just became the most dangerous place on Earth. That strip of water is called the Strait of Hormuz. And right now it is on fire. Here's what just happened. The United States and Iran had a ceasefire. They agreed to stop fighting in early April 2025. But last week, the U.S. military launched new strikes anyway. The strikes hit targets near the Strait of Hormuz. Iran called the ceasefire broken. The talks got messier. And now the world is watching to see if a narrow waterway that carries 1/5 of all the oil on Earth becomes a war zone again. Let me explain who the main players are here. President Trump is running the show from Washington. He is trying to get Iran to give up its nuclear program and open the Strait of Hormuz again. Iran is being led by its supreme leader and the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. They are the ones who control what Iran does. And in the middle, Pakistan is acting as a messenger between the two sides, passing notes back and forth. Why should you care? Because every time you fill up your car, you are paying for what happens in that waterway. When oil cannot move freely through Hormuz, gas prices go up at your local station. When tensions rise there, grocery stores feel it too because shipping costs go up. And right now, the people negotiating in those rooms are making decisions that could affect what you pay at the pump this summer. This is where things get really interesting. To understand why this moment is so important, we need to go back to June of 2025. That is when everything really kicked off. It started with Israel. On June 13, 2025, Israel launched surprise strikes against Iran. This began what became known as the 12-Day War. 12 days of fighting between Israel and Iran. Then on June 22nd, the United States joined in. They launched a massive operation called Midnight Hammer. American B-2 stealth bombers flew from Missouri all the way to Iran. They dropped what are called bunker buster bombs. These are giant bombs designed to go deep underground and destroy reinforced structures. They hit 3 nuclear facilities, Fordow, Natanz, and Isfahan. The whole operation lasted under 30 minutes. By June 24th, Israel and Iran had agreed to a ceasefire. The fighting stopped. But the real negotiation was just beginning. That ceasefire between the U.S. and Iran started in early April 2025. It has been shaky from day one. According to the International Crisis Group, a think tank that studies conflicts around the world, the ceasefire was violated almost immediately. The United States Navy started redirecting commercial ships. Over 100 ships have been turned away or rerouted since the ceasefire began. Iran called the naval blockade an act of war. But the U.S. called it necessary to keep pressure on Iran during negotiations. This matters because the Strait of Hormuz is not just any waterway. Every single day, tankers carrying oil pass through it. Some reports say it carries 20% of the world's oil supply. Other reports say it is closer to 25%. Either way, that is a huge chunk of the global economy flowing through a channel that is only about 30 miles wide at its narrowest point. Here is the comparison. Imagine if someone put a toll gate on the only road into your neighborhood. Every single truck that delivers food, medicine, and supplies has to go through that one gate. Now imagine that gate is guarded by 2 groups who do not trust each other. That is basically what is happening in the Strait of Hormuz right now. Now let us talk about the actual negotiation. It is messy. Here is what each side wants. The United States wants Iran to completely give up its nuclear program. That means no more enriching uranium, no more nuclear facilities. Trump has called this his red line. He says Iran can never have a nuclear weapon. Iran wants something back. They want $24 billion in frozen assets released. This is money that Iran earned from oil sales before sanctions blocked it. They want that money back before they agree to anything. There is also the question of the Strait of Hormuz itself. Secretary of State Marco Rubio put it plainly. He said the strait will be opened one way or another. Either Iran opens it as part of a deal or the U.S. will use what he called Plan B. Plan B means forcing it open with military action. Some analysts believe this deal could happen within days. The talks are happening in Qatar. Officials from both sides are meeting. Trump said he has been pretty impressed by Iran's negotiators. But there is deep distrust. Iran remembers that Trump pulled out of the Iran nuclear deal in 2018. That deal was agreed to under President Obama. Trump canceled it and put sanctions back on Iran. Iran has not forgotten that. Rosemary Kalanick, who directs the Middle East program at Defense Priorities, said it bluntly. She told the Hill newspaper that bombing Iran during negotiations only makes things worse. She said it gives Iran another reason to believe they cannot trust the United States to keep its word. Ali Veyes from the International Crisis Group said both sides are getting closer to a deal, but they are doing it while under fire. He said the alternative to a deal is ugly for both sides. But if the talks break down, the fighting comes back. That brings us to what happens next. The first possibility is a deal happens. Both sides agree. Iran opens the Strait of Hormuz. They get some of their frozen money back. They agree to limits on their nuclear program. If this happens, gas prices would likely drop within 60 days. You would see relief at the pump before the end of summer. The second possibility is the talks fail. Iran says no to the terms. The ceasefire collapses completely. The U.S. carries out the strikes it was preparing for last week. The Strait of Hormuz becomes an active combat zone. Oil prices spike. Analysts at Goldman Sachs have said this scenario could push gas prices above $5 a gallon in the United States. The third possibility is the talks drag on. Neither side walks away, but neither side agrees either. The ceasefire holds, but just barely. The naval blockade continues. Ships keep getting turned away. Oil prices stay elevated, but not catastrophic. This is the messy middle ground where nobody wins, but nobody loses completely either. Nobody knows for certain which of these plays out. It depends on decisions being made right now in rooms most of us will never see. Here is how this actually affects you. If you drove to work this week, you already paid part of this cost. Not directly. Not as a bill. But the gas you bought was more expensive because of what is happening in that waterway. The World Bank has said that conflicts in the Middle East have a direct and measurable impact on global energy prices. That means your grocery bill goes up too. When shipping costs rise, stores charge more for everything that comes on a truck. If you have a savings account, this matters for you too. When oil prices spike, it can affect interest rates. The Federal Reserve watches these situations closely. Higher oil prices can push inflation up, which can slow down job growth and make borrowing more expensive. This might feel distant. You are not in the Persian Gulf. You are not in those negotiation rooms. But the oil that fills your tank started on a ship sailing through that waterway. The products in your local store traveled on ships that might have been rerouted around a war zone. The connection is closer than it looks. Think about that tanker we started with. The captain is still sitting there. He has been waiting for weeks for someone to tell him he can move again. His crew is running low on supplies. His company is losing money every single day. His decision, and the decisions of a few hundred other captains and diplomats and generals, is about to affect what you pay for gas next month. Now let me ask you something. The United States says it wants a deal, but it also keeps launching strikes while negotiations are happening. Iran says it wants peace, but it also threatens to strike back and widen the war. Both sides say they want the same thing, stability in the region. But they keep taking actions that make stability harder to reach. Is that a sign that neither side really believes a deal is possible? Or is that just what negotiation looks like when two countries have spent years not trusting each other? I genuinely do not know the answer. Tell me what you think below. If you want to understand the stories behind the headlines, not just the headlines themselves, subscribe. I put out new videos every week. We are going to keep tracking this situation because the Strait of Hormuz is not done making news. Next time, we are going into something that most channels are not covering yet. A quiet shift in how countries are choosing their allies in this new era of global power. Stay tuned.